name is Anna Lussenberg, aka Annie the Nanny, and this is my point of view. So, welcome to this. This is my very first vlog. This is very exciting, and I'm really glad you're here to listen in. So, today I wanted to chat about something that's quite prevalent, that's popping up quite a bit here and there amongst adults and children, and it's this sort of idea of wearing our struggles on our sleeve, every struggle that we're struggling with. And I liken it to creating a victimhood-like mentality in children. And a few days ago, I read an article called what is it? A Victim and Miserable: The Tragic Life of X. Now you're probably saying, who is X? Well, don't worry, we'll get to that in a minute. But before I tell you the story of X, I want to take a bit more of an in-depth look in how we deal with victimhood, the idea of victimhood, how encouraging kids to have this kind of mentality ultimately makes both them sad and frankly probably everyone else around them as well. Now, while my main argument today is going to feature X, I want to start by letting readers know about a current channel that's you can find on Facebook. I'll put the link in the description box. I call this Exhibit A, okay, and it's an example of a victimhood-like mentality being taught to a child in real time. And Exhibit A consists of Hannah, and Hannah is frankly she's a lovely little girl. She has big brown eyes. She's just as cute as a button, and she's unusually eloquent for her 8 young years. And she is struggling with this disorder. It's a unique disorder, and it has a wonderfully important sounding name. It sounds bad, scary even, and it's called AFRID. So you're probably saying, what's AFRID? Well, it's an acronym, and it stands for Avoidance Restrictive Food Intake Disorder. Hang on a minute. Sounds a bit like picky eating, doesn't it? No, don't make that mistake. No, it's way worse than picky eating. It consists of children who suffer from, let's give you an example, some of the following complaints. Perhaps they avoid eating foods that, don't have a certain taste, colour, texture, smell, that kind of thing. They worry possibly that something bad might happen to them, that they might choke or throw up, or they just don't want to eat, period. So, this is one scary disorder that runs around randomly striking 8-year-old little girls. Or does it? Well, look, let's dive into this a bit more closely. First of all, I have no wish to be personal to Hannah. And actually, this is not about Hannah, because Hannah is simply doing what any 8-year-old child would do in similar circumstances. This is more about Hannah's parents and thousands of parents out there like Hannah's who are doing the same thing. Essentially, they're instilling in their children a victimhood-like mentality, whether or not they realise it. And to be fair to them, I'm sure they don't realise it. And I've no doubt they're completely unaware of what might be the result. You see, parents inadvertently give children a victimhood type of complex by sort of magnifying their every struggle. And these particular parents see Hannah's food aversion as some sort of, not as a problem to overcome quietly, within the family unit, but rather as a sort of avenue and an opportunity for her to become an influencer. They've no doubt told themselves that by promoting her like this, and all her difficulties with food, that she's going to be an inspiration to other people, and other people around the world are going to feel much better about their own eating struggles. But they haven't stopped to ask themselves what's going to happen or what this does to Hannah herself. And I think that's a very, very important question. Taking any child and putting them in the spotlight for a disorder magnifies that disorder in the child's mind. It just does that. And it begins this sort of process of installing a victimhood-like mentality in how they approach life in general. I mean, when you're just a normal kid, no one puts you on TV. No one usually gives you your own channel. And here we have a situation where mom or dad, whoever is coaching the child on what to say, how to act, how to keep the material interesting. Something any YouTuber would have a definitive affinity with. All of this, all of the coaching and everything else serves to make the problem central to the child's life, and that magnifies its importance in the child's life. The child probably is sitting there thinking, wow, I must be really special. This disorder I have is so bad. Look, everybody's looking at me and tuning in to see how I manage my disorder. I mean, I must be really important. Wow. If you take all these messages to their logical conclusion, and the child hears, that they are different, that they're exceptional, and what they're struggling with is so exceptional that it makes that struggle worthy of everybody's attention. Now ask yourself, is this the message we should be sending to our children? Is this victimhood-like mentality healthy? Is it more or less likely to help a child fit in successfully with their environment and their community? But, rather than use Hannah as an example, let's use a child called X instead. X is your average child, if there's such a thing these days. And X's family unit probably notices that, when she's a toddler, that X is really picky about certain kinds of food. There are things she will eat and other times where she just clamps her mouth dead shut. Her parents, wrestling with a new food, wave a spoon in front of her face and try and get her to eat and all of that. Pleading with her, and she refuses. Of course, like any good parent, they want X to eat, since, maybe X is small for her age and they're worried that she's not growing as fast as other children. They fret over her height and her weight chart. They approach each meal with sort of trepidation. And they whisper amongst themselves about how they wish X would just eat and how worried they are that she isn't. They talk to their neighbours on the back deck and to Granny and Grandpa on the phone about X's problem, and everyone has tons of advice to give. I mean, everybody is super helpful. They always are in situations like this. So the parents try one approach, but they, not really feeling terribly confident about it, so they try another approach, but kind of works, and the pots that don't, and so they try another thing and it doesn't work, and then they try another, and it goes on like that. And once preschool starts, they talk about X's issues everywhere with everyone, who'll listen. Think of pickup time, while X is standing there waiting to show them a picture she's painted, and they look worried, and they take X to the doctor, explaining how much X's seeming dislike of food worries them. Oh, it's perfectly normal. The doctor listens and suggests a therapist, trained in eating disorders, perhaps. X listens closely. At home, X turns away more food and everyone looks really concerned, And the parents plead with X nightly. Please, 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 eat. There are arguments with X and nightly crying episodes. And then the parents argue with each other over why X is behaving like this and whose fault it is. X grows up. She's now in elementary school. She's seeing a therapist. The psychotherapist is a kindly soul, She's a really nice person who knows all about AFRID and has seen so many devastating cases. She's empathetic with X. And she affirms X's challenges. She says, your struggles are real, X. She tells X about her diagnosis of AFRID and gives her this diagnosis, and X's parents are just thrilled. X's issues have been caused by this real disorder that has a name. X is pretty pleased as well. The therapist suggests that X's parents have a duty to encourage X to share her struggles and that they shouldn't be afraid of involving the whole community in X's care. The school teachers, the friends can all have a positive impact on her, on X, and her relationship with food. The therapist believes, of course, that more education and awareness are key. Well, you can imagine school, goes on and maybe there's a Halloween party and all the children have been asked to bring in various, foods, some healthy, some not so healthy, for a Halloween party. And X's mum hears about the Halloween party and she totally freaks out. So she sends a letter to the teacher saying, an email saying, don't you know about X's struggles with foods and, the foods that you're serving here might upset X? And she demands veto power over the menu. Now let's just pretend that the teacher duly acquiesces to X's parents' demands and her parents provide then a list of sanctioned foods that only X likes, are served. The kids grumble a bit because they're told in no uncertain terms by the teacher that X's AFRID means they can only have what X wants because, hey, we must all be empathetic and understanding. And don't take that to mean that I don't enjoy empathy and understanding. I do. I just think there are times and places. X is beginning to understand that the world is working around X, according to X, just like it's supposed to. And her victimhood mentality is now becoming entrenched. As X grows in confidence, she starts to advocate for herself. Bravo! Say, Mum and Dad. When she goes anywhere, she makes sure to tell everyone about her AFRID. Perhaps, Mum suggests, she could become an AFRID influencer, there's an idea, and help other children just like her. She can't wait to start. Mum enthusiastically gathers all the material and information and thinks up all the appropriate hashtags, hashtag mental health, hashtag AFRID, hashtag AFRID struggles, just to make sure they get, that X gets the maximum numbers of viewers to document her journey, to watch her document her journey. Meanwhile, X wants to have friends over and visit with other kids, just like any other kid. But it's difficult. Sometimes she just doesn't want to go because she feels the whole thing is so upsetting. I mean, on the one hand, she desperately wants to ignore the AFRID herself and just be a normal kid because, well, those kids seem to enjoy themselves. But on the other, she's got a lot of subscribers now and it's complicated. When she does pluck up the courage to go somewhere, she tells whoever she visits about her AFRID and what she can and can't eat. That at least makes her comfortable. She finds it hard to interact with the other kids. Because often they're having pizza. And she doesn't like pizza. Many of the friends she visits acquiesce and drop anything off the menu that might upset X, so nobody gets any pizza. And everyone knows whose fault that is. Everyone knows there are different groups in school, and X finds her place, though it seems to be with kids that have similar struggles, anxiety, other mental health issues. People constantly ask her if she's all right around food. Well, she tells them about her journey and hands out her X handle so they can follow her. There are some kids in school that seem super interested. She loves to tell them all about her journey and everything they want to know and how difficult it is for her. Over time, some of the elements of this strange disorder become contagious and start affecting other families. X sees this and starts a little group in school with the encouragement of the teachers and school staff. A great idea, they say. We should bring awareness to this complex disorder. Of course, X's parents see the same demand in the community, and so they start a community group where they all discuss X and children like X and their children who have X's issues and other issues, and it's all comes together in the community. Everybody, the various these various support groups flourish. As X grows and goes into high school and college, more students than ever seem interested in X and her struggles, and they find solidarity in the issues that they're facing. You know, X is a great advocate for AFRID by now. She knows the warning signs and is quite the authority on the subject. So she starts the campus AFRID support group. She believes there should be more awareness around eating issues like hers and other ones. And the group agrees that eating makes them anxious and that they should all have a safe space, a safe room where perhaps no food's allowed. A place to sort of decompress and be themselves, because it makes them anxious. And X really feels they don't have a right to make her anxious. Finally, X enters the workplace, but finds the whole experience frightening. It wasn't anything like she expected. Her colleagues put their ham and cheese sandwiches and salads in the office fridge. The office fridge? Are you kidding me? Don't they know how upsetting that is? No. X has launched a few complaints, of course, but they just don't seem to care. X has had a few jobs since then, but they're always the same. Nobody really cares about her AFRID. She's asked colleagues not to put their stuff in the fridge or eat around her, but they just don't seem to be listening. And besides, they talk about her behind her back. She's had to leave quite a few jobs because of that. X feels hurt and let down by the system and the world. They all seem to care, but then they didn't. What happened? The only people that really care for her are online in her group, so she spends a lot of time there online, where she feels safe. She feels like they're her only real friends. She tells them that she feels sad and rejected. The world's a super unfair place for X. That's what she says. The others agree. I don't think I probably need to go on. I think you've no doubt got the idea by now. But children like X become fully ensconced in a victimhood-like mentality. Not just with AFRID, but with all sorts of common challenges that kids and people face today. Anxiety, other mental health issues, gender dysphoria, etc. And happiness will always elude these people because all of their lives, instead of seeing the ups and downs of life, just as a normal part of life, they've been taught to make them central to their identity and to view themselves as victims. And that means they'll always view the misfortunes that happen to them, normal misfortunes that happen to us all, through that narrative lens. And that's really corrosive. And it's tragic. And it's why I title my piece, A Victim and Miserable, The Tragic Life of X. Because stories like these are just tragic. I bet you remember when you were a kid, you used to hear that phrase, finish your plate, think of the starving kids in Africa. Well, let me tell you right now, my son is in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And he's going down the Congo River on a boat. Now, these boats are think steamer of the 1940s, except without the steam. But even earlier than that, sort of 1890s without steam. And then we'd even got, I'm not sure how late they went. I think they went into the 40s, but I'm not entirely sure. Anyway, he's got a cabin, but it's one of the few cabins, but it's just four walls, tiny space, and nothing. 4 steel walls, and that's it. And a leaky roof. The boat has no bathroom, no beds, no nothing. He's simply just got a mat on the floor, which he brings himself. Food comes by way of fishermen who will row up to the boat because it's pushing all these barges down the river, and will sell you a fish, and then there might be somebody that will be able to cook it for you on the boat, and for a price, of course. The point here that I'm trying to make is that everyone has to struggle for everything they get. They have to scramble, okay, including the kids. There is no victimhood like mentality. Nobody has a victim mentality or an eating disorder or AFRID in the Democratic Republic of Congo. I wonder why, So I've enjoyed talking to you, and I hope you found this interesting, and I hope you'll tune in for my next one. And I will put that link in the description box. And thank you very much for joining me. Take care.